G'day, welcome. Let's go roll some hot dice. It's another Creaky Gamers Kings of War battle report.
Okay, well, welcome to round 3 of Shirecon, and the Goblins this round are up against the mighty Ogres, and Trent's Ogres. The last 3 tournaments I've played against Trent, and the last time we played, his Ogres gave the Goblins a hiding, and the scenario is Salt the Earth, so that shows the approximate positions of the Ogres tokens that they place. The one in the middle obviously stays there all game, and that's worth a point at the end. And then the Goblins, well, we place them mainly to the right-hand side of the board, so roughly in those positions there. You'll see them during the game, and you can destroy the objectives if the enemy's getting a bit too close. So if we go over the Ogre army, and that's a good shot of their deployment on their left flank. So they've got 3 hordes of siege breakers. There's a couple of little croc dog wranglers. Got to be careful of those, because last time we played, one of them killed Grony Snark. And then in here there's a battery of 2 warlocks and 2, I think they're bruisers with crossbows, and a couple of units of ogres there, just ogre warriors. So it's a very strong, hard-hitting army, and as you know, if you've ever played ogres, you know they hit hard, and those siege breakers are hard to get through as well. And then over on his left flank, you can see there's Nomagrok and another couple of units of warriors. So that's, you can roughly see where the objectives are as well. There's one underneath those siege breakers, and there's one there and one there. And so that's the ogre deployment, and a picture of my finger on the camera as well. Okay, let's have a look at the Goblins. Okay, so there they are. That's the centre. We'll switch over to the left. So way out on the left flank, I've got the Winget and the Fleabag Riders and the Exploding Trolls. So I think the Winget and the Fleabag Riders are going to spend most of their game hiding behind that hill to keep away from Nomagrok's lightning bolts. And I'm just going to send the Trolls up there, and hopefully he wants to attack them and they blow up. So the poor old Trolls are just running interference at the moment. Way out on my right flank, there's a picture I found of my right flank. I've got 1 Rocklobber, a Mincer Mob, and the Horde of Rabble. So their job is just to hang around there and hold that objective. But they've got a unit of siege breakers and a mammoth coming at them. So they're going to have to move forward and try and keep them back. So we'll see what happens. But that's the extreme right flank of the Goblin lines. And then in the middle, the couple of Rocklobbers there with a Horde of Rabble and Magwar and Joe there. Grony Snark is hiding behind the Mincer Mob and the Banner of Abbottshire Wiz, and the other Inspiring Wiz are there. So behind Grogger's Luglads, and I think that's the Sharpness, Brew of Sharpness Mincer Mob in the middle there. So I've got some cover in this pond, so Goblin standing in a pond getting cover, and I expect that the Ogre Battery of Lightning is going to move up onto that hill, and hopefully we can weather the storm of the Battery of Lightning and shooting crossbows from the Ogres there. So my plan is to... well, I've got the two Rocklobbers here, but there's a bit of blocking terrain in the middle, so that's a bit of a problem. So I can shoot in this direction or that direction, and as it turns out, I've got 1 Rocklobber can fire at that horde of siege breakers there on turn 1 after he moves up out of the cover. Anyway, so my plan is to sit back. They'll go up on that hill, and it'll be a shootout on the hill. And then we've got to try and stop them running over the top of me on the left flank. We'll see what happens. Okay, so that's the general situation at the start. And I think we're just finishing off deployment here. Down goes Nomagrok, and there we go. Start your engines, we're off. So turn 1, the Ogres win the roll-off and they go first. And this is at the end of both sides turn 1. I'm just highlighting the fact that my Rocklobbers had a bit of luck on turn 1, and that's the general overview. So let's pause it here and we'll have a look at what's happened. So the Ogres went first, and as we thought, they moved up in the middle here, well, and put their battery of lightning bolts and crossbows up on the hill. And they didn't do too much damage, a few wounds here and there, but the Banner of Abbottshire, combined with the terrain, the pond that we're standing in and hiding in, the wizards were reasonably safe, and he did a couple of wounds to the big legion of rabble. And then I think this is during his turn 2, he's moved up into the woods, so those siege breakers and the mammoth, they marched up and they had to stop behind the woods because they didn't have any pathfinder or anything. And then during his turn 2, he's moved up, so now they've got their nose in the woods, so now they can see out to charge. And as we said, these warriors here have moved up to form a screen for the lightning bolts and shooting up on the hill. And then the croc dogs have moved up, they're lurking around to get into my little characters. And so the big thing that happened was in the centre, he moved his siege breakers. One of them came out of that terrain there, and I think it might only have been one rock lobber could actually see them. Anyway, I got a lucky shot. I got a couple of hits, and he didn't have any inspiring around those siege breakers. I think I did about 7 or 8 wounds or something, and they ran away. So that was the end. So very lucky to get rid of 1 unit of siege breakers on turn 1. And then I've just moved up and we're just exchanging lightning bolts and so on this side and trying to get a few shots in. Looks like I've done a few wounds to one of the warlocks on the hill, so I want to get rid of those warlocks. I remember last time we played, the battery of lightning bolts just tore into the goblins, and I was losing whole units, whole hordes to the lightning because they get bonus dice. So we wanted to try and shut down those warlocks, and they stood up on the hill, so we're throwing rocks at them and lightning bolts at them to try and get rid of them. But there's a big threat here, siege breakers and mammoth on the goblin right. So I'm relying on my legion of rabble to hang on there again. Yeah, so this is in turn 2. He's charged those warriors into Grogger's Luglads there just to hold them back, because Grogger's Luglads, they do have wild charge D3. They do have a lot of attacks, but they're standing in terrain. Any charge they're going to do is going to be hindered. So then they're hitting on 5s. They're only crushing 1. They're 245 points for a unit that's defense 4 and hits on 4s. I mean, they do have wild charge and brutal and 30 attacks or something, but they just don't cut it for me. You can't give them an item to hit better. They're a good unit, but 245 points where most decent armies are getting units for 250 that are hit on 3s and defense 5 and so on probably. But anyway, he's thrown the warriors in there just to hold them back, and he's got a big threat in the woods, so they're going to come out of the woods eventually, and I'm just hoping that the Legion of Rabble can hold. He's brought his wizards down off the hill, so the warlocks are zapping whoever they can see. I think they've done a few wounds to the Legion of Rabble, and they're trying to zap the wizards and so on. And I'm thinking, well, I've got the mincer mob here. I can probably burst through here somehow and start attacking those characters. So he's just going to have to keep throwing those warriors in to keep me back, although I'm just in the terrain with hindered charges. So anyway, that's the situation on that right flank. So we're just waiting to see what the mammoth and the siege breakers can do, and if we can withstand the storm of the lightning bolts and so on. If we go over what's happening on the left here, there's no tokens out here except there's one up the back there behind the building you can see. So I've sent the trolls forward, and they've taken a few wounds from lightning bolts, but they haven't wavered yet, which is pretty amazing. The Winget's looking for somewhere to go where he's not going to get zapped by Nomagorok, and he's spotting for the rock lobbers. The rock lobbers are doing a few wounds here and there, but not removing units. I was a bit lucky on turn 1. And I'm hiding the fleabag riders behind the hill. They're looking for an opportunity, but again, if I bring those up, they might get lightning bolted off the table. So eventually they're going to sneak around the back there, I think. But that's the situation, and the trolls are not long for this world. They're going to go forward, charge in and probably detonate, hopefully. So that's the situation. The goblins are hanging on there, and the ogres are looking to get to grips with them. And the trolls have moved up, and the winged has evaded. Okay, well, there's the mammoth. It's all happening now. It's crunch time. The mammoth has charged out of the woods into the Legion of Rabble. I still have the mincer mob there in reserve, and this rock lobber's getting shot by the crossbowman there. That base shows you where the siege breakers are. We're just working out angles and so on. Being very cautious there, and he's offering me a charge on the siege breakers, but will I take it or not? We'll find out. So I just need the rabble to hold, or maybe die and get out of the way. So I think what's going to happen is the rabble are going to waver or something and get stuck in the way. And even if they did countercharge, there's not enough room for me to get the mincer mob in there. So I've kind of stuffed up there. Maybe the rabble should have been a little bit further to the left, perhaps. Okay, so that's the situation there. And over here, the ogres have lured the trolls into the trap. The exploding trolls have moved up there. Don't want to get outflanked, so I think I've moved across, so I'm not in charge range of those warriors there. So the siege breakers, they'll have to take them on their own. And I'm just trying to get the winged around the back to maybe grab an objective, or the fleabag riders. So that's the situation. Charge of the mammoth. So the goblin counterpunch. The mammoth came charging out of the woods, and then the Legion of Rabble, yeah, they didn't waver. I think they just there wasn't enough room to get the mincer mob in next to them, so they just countercharged the mammoth, and Groany Snark flew over, and I got a host shadow beast off on him as well, and so they did quite a few wounds, and they removed the mammoth. So that was the end of the mammoth. I think last time we played, I didn't put host shadow beast on Groany, and they didn't do enough wounds. So I think the combination of the hammer of measured force from the Legion of Rabble and Groany Snark, they managed to remove the mammoth. And Grogger's Lug Lads, they've just charged the siege breakers. I know they're not going to get through them, but they're just going to hold them in place for a turn. So that's their job. And these wizards are just hanging around in the pond there, zapping. And you can see he's got one of the warlocks in the woods, and the crossbow guys are still up on the hill. And he's got a croc dog sneaking around there. So over here, Magwar and Joe, they've bolted away from the croc dog guy because they're on such a big base. They're on a 50 mil square base. They're individual still, but I couldn't get through the gap to get at the croc dog guy, so they've run away. And you can see the siege breakers and the warriors in Nomagorok are moving up here. They've finished off the trolls, but you can see there's a lot of green dice around those units because the trolls blew up and did a little bit of damage to them all. And so they're wounded, but they're coming after this horde of rabble standing on the objective. So I'm going to drop some bombs on those siege breakers and get rid of them, but the warriors will still keep coming. And yeah, so that's them there. And way out on the left flank, well, the winged is flown up there, and he's been spotting for the rock lobbers. And the fleabag riders, they don't want any part of this lightning bolts from Nomagorok or fighting ogres. So they're going to stay there, and then I think next turn they're just going to shoot out across there because there's an objective over there behind that building. So that's their job. They're going to zoom over there with their 20-inch move and claim an objective, and then eventually they'll just sit in the woods there holding an objective. So they've done their job. Go the fleabag riders. They've been very handy. Just keep them out of trouble. So that's the situation now, and the fight there. Grogger's Lug Lads are going to hold those siege breakers in place. And now the warriors have come in, so the siege breakers that were in the middle there, they got bombed and taken off the table. And now there's a croc dog and some warriors, and some next turn, some warriors are going to get into the flank. of the rabble horde. So I'm going to burn that objective because I'm not going to be able to hold it against these guys. So they're just holding them back, and I think at the end of this turn I'm going to say, oh, okay, I better burn that one so the ogres can't have it, because they're going to get through there by the end of the game. So they sort of did their job, the trolls and that horde of rabble. And so the battle rages on over here, and now you can see the horde, or the legion of rabble, have got into the flank of the siege breakers, and now the mincer mobs got in there. So the siege breakers removed Grogger's lug lads, and now the mincer mobs got into them as well. So the combined attack of them is going to remove those siege breakers. Groany's flown over here, and he's going to finish off, after a couple of turns, he's going to finish off that bruiser guy with the crossbow up on the hill there. And Magwar and Joe, they came back and they attacked a croc dog guy, and he's a duelist Joe as well, Magwar, and so he finished off that croc dog. And they're getting off some drained lives into there to try and keep the siege breakers alive. So that's the warlocks trying to keep the siege breakers alive. And then that's the end result. So, as I said, the fleabag riders, they ran up there, got onto that objective, and the next turn they sort of moved into the woods to get some cover. Nomagorok went to hold the centre objective, and then Groany flew over and attacked Nomagorok, and with some host shadow beasts from the little whiz, they finished him off. So that is the end of the battle, and the goblins are going to be victorious. I think we hold two objectives, the ones in the far corners. Let me have a look at the map. And those war machines aren't going to last much longer, but I think we don't control the one in the middle because Groany doesn't score, but the fleabag riders are going to hold that one up there, and my mincer mob that didn't see any action is going to hold the other one. So that's the end of the battle. So a victory to the goblins, 17-4 or something it might have been. So they did okay, so much better than they have in previous battles. And obviously the inclusion of the rock lobbers and the fleabag riders was the total difference in the armies, and also adding a host shadow beast that I can buff Groany up, because sometimes Groany on his own, he flies in 5 attacks hitting on 4s. He's a bit swingy, but he's a little bit more reliable if you can get some host shadow beast off on him, and he was instrumental in a couple of the wins, and he did pretty well here, helping me take out the mammoth and helping the legion of rabble. So the rock lobbers are really good. They don't have to do any damage, they just sort of dictate where people are going to put their big nasty things. But in this battle they actually removed a couple of units of siege breakers and put a few wounds on a warlock up on the hill as well, and so on. They never got a shot at the mammoth, but the mammoth came in and didn't get through the legion of rabble, so I was lucky there. And the legion held on, got helped out by Groany. So a few different things in the army list has made it totally different. Just the long range threat was the main thing, and not just sitting there and people marching towards you with all their heavy hitters and killing you. So the goblins do need some of their whiz-bang stuff to be able to compete at all, I think. They can't fight with rabble. I think the mincer mobs did okay. Maybe I should have a bit more faith in the trolls, maybe give them the brew of sharpness, because they're definitely going to see action, than the mincer mobs as a backup. And I just don't like them. Someone's got to have the brew of sharpness. Someone's got to hit on 3, so maybe the trolls might be the better option, because they're a bit faster, and then maybe a counterpunch with the mincer mobs. I did miss my giants. I do usually been running 2 giants, so they would have been handy in some games. But they're a hell of a lot of points, and so I might add more fleabag riders next time. Might try that formation with the fleabag riders. Maybe give them the brewer sharpness on one of the fleabag riders so they hit on 3s, and maybe caterpillar potion on them. So I'll order some more fleabag riders. I used to have more, but I've used them, turned them into heroes and so on. So I'll get another box of fleabag riders, boost them up. Add another regiment of them, and we'll see how they go then. But definitely a different makeup, having some long-range threat with the rock lobbers. So thanks for watching. Thanks to all my opponents. I think the Goblins came in about third or something, so that was pretty good. Better than third last. So they'll try them out again soon. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.
Well, that was different. Yep, lousy, but different.